If you were 2-7, you'd be in a bad mood too.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. And he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
Get your mouth shut. Get your mouth shut. Jerk.
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
If worms had machine guns, then birds wouldn't be scared of them.
Hey, how's everybody doing out there tonight? Welcome to a Word Home Media presentation of Limp Ditka's podcast. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. Welcome to the Limp Ditka's podcast. We have plenty of Lions, Cowboys, Notre Dame, and Michigan State football news. We are two Chicago pricks united by our hatred for the Chicago Bears and the University of Michigan football. So luckily we have plenty to talk about with the Bears and University of Michigan football this week too. So let's go ahead and jump into the news. I think we're going to start the show off with the surprise upset.
Not a surprise to me. Folks.
That's what I was going to say to everyone but PV over there, who predicted that the Lions, after firing their coach and GM, would rally the troops and beat the sad Chicago Bears, which came to fruition. I can't believe many people outside of the Chicago or Detroit markets actually watched that game. It was kind of a brutal game. I had some fun watching it. It was terrible football, predictably so. The Lions, coming off just firing their GM and head coach, had interim head coach Darrell Bevell taking over. The word on the street, undefeated Darrell Bevell. The word on the street was that the Lions felt unshackled after the dictator had been toppled in Matt Patricia, and you could see it. You could see a palpable energy on the sideline, and I mean, maybe that just hadn't been shown by careful editors and cameramen in previous broadcasts because it didn't fit the narrative, but. I don't know. You could see the Lions were having some fun. There was not much fun being had on the Bears sideline, who have now lost 6 in a row. And I'm actually surprised that we haven't heard so far this week that Matt Nagy or Ryan Pace have been fired at this point.
I'm amazed.
I'd say it's imminent after the season. If they didn't do it after that game, then it's probably not going to happen until after the season. But who knows? Maybe if they get embarrassed again, but just terrible football when it all comes down to it. I mean, there's so many stupid plays in that game. Like I think the best one was Allen Robinson on the final drive, running out of bounds 1 yard short of the first down on 3rd and 2 or whatever it was.
I literally laughed out loud when that happened, and then I was watching it by myself, and then I said out loud to anyone who would have heard me, which was no one, but I said, they are not going to get the first down now.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go that far. They had it was
like 1 yard.
He kind of stepped out maybe a half a yard even. I mean, but how undisciplined are you that you are not in the frame of mind to, at the minimum, maybe you are stepping out of bounds, but all you got to do is reach the ball forward.
Yeah.
It's where the ball is. I mean, we see it happen every game where it's so easy to get a first down in a situation like that because you just nudge it forward. You lack that much discipline. You're that poorly coached that you're not even in the right frame of mind at that point.
Well, that's either a brain fart on Robinson's part or he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. And I feel like that's kind of a theme with that guy. Like he's kind of given up on the team, and you could just see him running out of bounds just to save his body for whatever free agent contract he's going to go after shortly. So
yeah.
The Lions did stuff them on the next play at 4th and 1 that pretty much ended the game. The funny part of that Allen Robinson play is the Lions had a similar play earlier in the game, I think in the second quarter, where our running back, all he had to do, it was a 4th down play, and all he had to do was cut it up the field. They ran a toss sweep,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He had to
play.
cut up the field and just dive for the 1 yard he needed a game, but he tried to cut back and got blown up by the defender. It's just like, do you know that it's 4th down and what? Like, what you're trying to make it into a 20-yard gain, and all he needs is one. It's like, what the fuck?
I believe they actually covered the rule at that point where who's ever broadcasting the game said someone had said, one of the broadcasters had said forward progress, and he said, well, no, actually it's not forward progress because he on his own he stepped back.
Yeah, there's no one near him when he made the cutback, and it's like I guess I could believe it because I've spent my life watching the Lions, but it was just comical that I just started out criticizing the Bears while the Lions made the exact same play earlier in the game. So that just emphasized my point, what a shit game it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that case, though, it's what point in the game those plays both happened.
Yeah,
and the Bears
exactly.
just had such dire consequences because you were probably sitting there going, "Oh fuck, we're gonna lose this game. They're gonna march down and score a touchdown."
Well, this is the problem, and I've talked about this many times in this podcast already. Like where Lions fans are at. Like, is it? I don't know if I'm rooting for a win or rooting for a loss because I'd much rather just have a better draft pick at this point. So
exactly.
Did it win really what I wanted? I mean, I got to root for my team to win, my team that I've followed my entire life to win games, but at the same time, it hurts my team in the long run by winning games. So again, I say this over and over again, it just makes me angry the position that the Lions have put Lions fans in, that we even have to think about that shit. So I just watch it kind of with passive amusement. Any Lions game, like if they win, great, they won. If they lose, great, we get a better draft pick. So I think the bigger news that at least involves the Lions, and we'll get off the Lions as soon as possible on this, but the real story of the Lions is who's going to be their next GM and then who will be their next head coach. And there's a little bit of news on that front, and there's probably rumors trickling in and out that I'm not sure how much to believe. But one fact, at least, is my number one GM, my hopeful GM that I proposed on episode 7, last week's show, would be Tony Dungy. And that already looks like an impossibility, considering he has been hired by the Houston Texans to be a consultant to find their next GM, which immediately tells you he's not interested in a GM role, but he's certainly interested in helping other teams find their GM. So hopefully it's a non-exclusive contract, whatever he has, because I would love for Tony Dungy to be involved in the Lions process of finding a new GM. But of course, I don't know anything about that. It might be a conflict of interest. I'm not sure how that works. But regardless, my number one choice is most likely off the board in Tony Dungy. If you want to hear my other thoughts on who the GM should be, you can listen to episode 7 of the Limp Ditka's podcast from last week. The other news that I've heard that was at least reported by Ian Rappaport is that the Lions are not going to hire an outside search firm to help find their GM, which is a little different scenario than hiring a team of former NFL coaches and GMs like Tony Dungy. Search firm is it's like finding a headhunter that apparently would have some expertise beyond what the ownership of the Lions have to make that kind of decision.
Right.
On the surface, that's not the worst thing in the world, but you think about it more, it's like, why wouldn't the Lions exhaust every possible resource to find the right person? Why not hire a search firm? What's the harm in that? Just to get another opinion. Hire a search firm, do your own search. Hire somebody like Tony Dungy. It just makes me think they're going to go back to the old Ernie Accorsi way that has failed on multiple occasions, that resulted in Matt Patricia, or resulted in Bob Quinn and also Ryan Pace in Chicago. And I feel like they're going to go down that same path. And it's just typical Lions, not doing the smart thing. Why not exhaust every resource possible and find the right one? So it's hard to say what that really means. Maybe maybe there's more to this. Maybe there will be an exhaustive search, and maybe I'll be happy with the people they eventually put in charge of that search, other than themselves, who clearly have no idea what the fuck they are doing. We'll see. Like I said, that's plenty to talk about the Lions. We let off the show with the Lions because they happen to play the Bears this week. For the podcast, I think I'm happy they beat the Bears. It just makes for a fun story. It's always fun to make fun of the Bears. They're now 0-6 in their last 6 games. Bears. We'll see. We'll go from there. But I think an equally disappointing story happened last night with your Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you want to get into Tuesday night football.
Yeah, Tuesday night football, COVID related. They had to postpone it from Thursday because the Ravens had to play Tuesday last week. I didn't expect them to win. I knew Lamar Jackson was going to give their defense problems, and that's exactly what he did. Yeah. First touchdown of the game was scored on 38-yard rush straight up the middle. Now, pretty much untouched.
During the broadcast, I swear they said that's the longest QB run that the Dallas Cowboys have ever given up in their entire history.
Yeah, I could see that. Their defense is really at an all-time low.
But it's 38 yards. It seems like that could have happened. Maybe it's just
I think it's because it's a quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, quarterback sneak. Yeah. He wasn't even close to being touched on that play. It seemed like.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And my problems really come in, and Troy Aikman did a really fantastic job at just beating the Dallas Cowboys defense to death last night. I mean, but everything he brought up was legitimate. Yeah. And the most frustrating thing he brought up is the passing touchdown. This is a coaching issue, and the defensive side of the ball needs to be held accountable very, very soon, because they do have talented players on the defense. It doesn't look that way right now, but you aren't going to win a lot of games when the ball gets snapped, everyone's in man coverage, but your one guy decides to play zone, which allows Miles Boykin to be wide open for what turned out to be the second touchdown of the game on a passing touchdown, because everyone was in man coverage, and 23, I can't think of the player's name, he drops into a zone. Like, how does that happen? I mean, that's not a mental mistake. That's like he didn't know what the play was, right? Yeah. And that is poor coaching. That's on the coaches. It's on the player too, but it's on the coaches. I mean, you can't have, and it's happened consistently, where part of the team is in like a zone and the other part is playing man because they don't know the fucking plays on the field. And that's why when you had an anomaly of 3 games where the defense was holding teams within like a 22 to 25 point range. And I think like whatever personnel was on the field in those games knew the plays and got the plays right in those games. But consistently over 30 points a game, they rank last in like every rushing category in defense. I mean, it's just fucking disgusting. And then on top of that, Zerline, who's like pretty sure-footed, misses 3 field goals yesterday.
Field goals.
And then it was like a weird night of field goals though too. I mean, because Tucker, who had 70 straight field goals when he was within 40 yards or less, and he missed it.
Joe Buck brought that up and then mocked the idea that he could possibly jinx it. As soon as he said that, he jinxed it, and Tucker yanked it. So that was hilarious.
I'm with Joe Buck. Jinxes aren't real, but it certainly,
if only we had that kind of power.
It certainly played out well at that point.
Yeah, the close to 300 yards rushing that the Cowboys gave up, I think it was 294. It was, I mean, that was.
Let me go to the tote board here. Let me see what it says. Yeah.
you mentioned the 3 missed field goals, and where that's 9 points, and I forget what the final score was.
34-17, they doubled up on them.
But you think about what those 9 points would have meant just for the momentum of the game, or for the strategy of how the end would play out. If you had those 9 points, how the end of the game would have played out, and just how different that was. So
it's a lot different because you don't do an onside kick.
Right.
When they did it.
Even before that, though, I think having more points at that point would change the offensive strategy, or who knows how the revolving doors of history work out. But 3 missed field goals, what the fuck? And
I mean,
like you said, Zerling's been great, hasn't he?
He's been great. I have him on my fantasy team. He's money.
Maybe it's a Tuesday night thing.
Yeah, I don't even know. I meant to look this up before we got on tonight. Was it windy there last night? That was like screwing. I don't even know.
I don't remember them mentioning that.
Yeah, I don't remember. But it was just weird that he and Mr. Surefoot Tucker missed. Missed field goal. But whatever. They're they're in bad shape. They're not gonna. They should just. I mean, might as well pack it in. It seems like the Giants have kind of figured something out in this season as they beat Seattle last week.
Well, the football team may have figured something out in Washington, beating the formerly undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. So
yeah, but we've actually talked about that. The Cowboys could have beat the Steelers. Steelers should have lost the last 3 weeks. Actually,
yeah, they cannot run the ball. I think Roethlisberger had like 51 passes in that game on Monday, and boy, yeah, that was a rock fight.
Yeah, so I mean, one of those guys are going to win the division, and I don't even really want the Cowboys to win the division because I really don't want to watch a Cowboys playoff game because there's going to be nothing good to come out of that this year.
Yeah,
and they just need to. What they need to do is focus on getting maybe some future personnel on defense in there to get some reps and things like that, and just turn the focus to next season. I mean, there's no reason to pretend at this point.
Yep. It's sad that we're kind of, I wrote off the Lions weeks ago, but it's sad that we're both in this position already in the NFL.
So on that note, why don't we turn to some happier news?
Yeah.
Let's go into the top 6, the Limp Ditkas.
My favorite sport, college football, despite the putrid performance of my Michigan State Spartans this week. Let's talk about the upper echelon of college football. We're going to rank our Limp Ditka's top 6, as we've done for several weeks now, and compare that to the college football playoff top 6. My top 6 changed a little bit for the first time in two weeks. I don't think anything changed last week. The only thing I'm changing, number 1, we've had Notre Dame. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Texas A&M. Number 5 is where I'm going to make the change. I'm actually going to move Ohio State up to number 5 after their ridiculous, impressive victory over Michigan State. A brutal game that I barely paid attention to because I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it started to happen immediately. There's not much to get into there. Mel Tucker, formerly the bad motherfucker. I had to take away his wallet again after that performance, but he can get it back with another victory this year. But so I moved up Ohio State to number 5. They're now 5-0, and I bumped Cincinnati back to number 6. And the college football playoff rankings they moved them back to number 8, I believe, from number 7.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with their competition that they have beat up on earlier in the season. Has their strength of schedule has kind of dropped off. Where I think SMU is one of their top opponents at the top victories, and they've lost more games. And it's just kind of the strength of schedule for Cincinnati is kind of unraveling as the teams that they have beaten are starting to lose games. So Cincinnati is a long shot to make the playoffs, but I'm not moving them out of the top 6 at this point. I'm just going to swap them with Ohio State. I've got a lot more to say about Ohio State after this, but what were your thoughts on your top 6?
Well, both Notre Dame and Clemson got off to rough starts on Saturday.
Yeah.
It looked like you might have this matchup that's coming up on December 19th looked like it might be in somewhat of type of jeopardy. And was the top 4 going to be blowing up this week? But Notre Dame poured it on, and Clemson was fine too. So it was kind of like they probably were both already thinking ahead. The players were already probably thinking ahead to that championship game.
I didn't even realize, when we were talking about Notre Dame last week, I didn't even know they had a game left, and I had no idea who the opponent would be. So I mean, I'm sure the players did, but that Syracuse game was very, very overshadowed in general. So
yeah, so it was like I said, it was way more of a nail biter in the first half than it should have been, but in the end, it was an easy victory. So my top 3 are the same. Note on Ohio State. And even though it was just Michigan State, what is impressive to me is they had like 19 backups playing or something in the game.
Yeah,
and they didn't skip a freaking beat.
Yeah. So 52-12 victory over Michigan State, who's obviously not a great team, but they do have wins over Michigan, which is not much of a win, but they did beat number 8 at the time, Northwestern. And so Michigan State's bad, but they're not a joke, and Ohio State made Michigan State look like a joke. So
yeah,
it's hard to quantify all these things, but you could tell in my mind, at least, Ohio State's the top 4 team in the country.
Yeah, I think they're pretty legit. So
you have them at number 4 instead of Texas A&M?
Yeah, I have them at number 4.
Okay, I haven't made that jump yet, but I think I probably will by next week. But
yeah, then Texas A&M, and I'm leaving Cincy at 6, but we're gonna have to we're gonna talk about this. I'm gonna bring it up as we get into Ohio State and Michigan. But we may be talking about Florida.
Yeah, I think they are number 6 in the college football playoff rankings. So yeah, they're gonna have to be mentioned. I think.
Well, the Florida Alabama game that's going to happen.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's going to take care of itself, because if they beat Alabama, well then they're in the top 4 easily. But if they lose, they're out. So that's going to take care of itself.
So if they beat Alabama, I mean, word on the street is Ohio State is on the outside looking in.
Yeah, because you could see how Alabama wouldn't get knocked out of the top 4 with that, and you'd still have Notre Dame and Clemson there. But Notre Dame and Clemson are going to play each other, so I think one of those is Notre Dame might not get knocked out even if they lose, but if Clemson loses again, they're knocked out. So there's where Ohio State could jump back in.
No, that's true. Yeah, if Clemson beats Notre Dame and Florida beats Alabama, that's your top 4, I think.
Yeah. That's what's nice about this. Some of this will be cleared up, and all of this is just fun speculation on the college football rankings part and our part as well, and pundits across the world.
But speaking of Ohio State and Michigan, breaking news.
Yeah, well, first we need to recap this week that Michigan did cancel the game against the game as it's called. Against Ohio State.
That was my nod to Michigan right there. That was my cough.
As we talked about last week, where Kirk Herbstreit kind of stepped in it when he brought up that potentiality on national television, that the conspiracy theory that Michigan would purposely just kill that game just to fuck over Ohio State, being that the Big Ten had made a rule that the conference championship game had to be with participants that had played at least 6 games. So if Michigan just bailed on the last game, they would not only save their reputation, because they would most definitely get their asses kicked by Ohio State once again. They would also fuck over Ohio State by not letting them in there in the Big Ten Conference Championship. So as news broke about 3 hours ago now, the Big Ten, not surprisingly, just changed their arbitrary rule that they made up before the beginning of the season. This COVID,
this can't happen.
because there are too many fucking millions of dollars at stake. If the Big Ten could make the college football playoffs in any way, shape, or form, why the fuck wouldn't they just waive that stipulation that you have to play 6 games? I don't. It's clear what's happened. I mean, it's money. The Big Ten has a vested interest in changing that rule. The rules were made up to begin with. This whole season's just a clusterfuck, and it's all made up. So who really cares? So I also happen to believe, even though I hate Ohio State, I do believe they would be worthy of a place in the college football playoffs if they are allowed into the Big Ten championship game, which they are. And if they win that, and they'll have 6 wins, they'll be undefeated. It's not the same impressive resumes as other undefeated teams, but there's not going to be too many undefeated teams to let them in, is what it comes down to. If anyone else, with 1 loss wants to cry about Ohio State getting in eventually, they shouldn't have lost the fucking game. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, is what it is. You kind of got the idea that they were going to change that rule as you heard that Michigan and that the game was canceled. I mean, it would have been really unfair for Ohio State for that to happen. Whether the Michigan thing's legit or not, it would have been a shame.
It'd be fun to say it's not legit and it's a conspiracy theory, and they tried everything they could to fuck over. I think they knew the same thing that everyone else did, is that the Big Ten would just change the rule. So I do think it is COVID related. They did cancel their game against Maryland. I'd love to say it was Jim Harbaugh being a coward and not wanting to expose himself to any more humiliation, but I think more likely than not, it is legit. But again, Ohio State can cry foul, but it's all going to work out for them. They're still going to make it into that Big Ten championship game. So
where they get to play Northwestern.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of my favorite victories of the year of any football game that I've watched is Michigan State really manhandling Northwestern, which I just did not expect. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. But it almost would have been better if State hadn't done that and Northwestern was going into this in the top 10 in the country, undefeated. It would give that extra little bit of legitimacy to the Big Ten championship game. Like, whoever wins this, holy fuck, they were going to make, if Northwestern was undefeated at this point, and we talked about that, they would and somehow beat Ohio State, they would go to the college football playoffs. All the arguments I just made for Ohio State making would apply to Northwestern, but Mel Tucker, the bad motherfucker, while he was still holding on to the wallet, took care of that. So it's just, I mean, bizarre season on so many levels, just another bizarre little bit of irony. So yeah, I mean, I'm assuming now that Ohio State will just beat the fuck out of Northwestern like they've beat the fuck out of everyone they've played. So it might not be that enticing of a game to watch, but at least we're gonna have I'm just happy we're gonna have a Big Ten title game to watch. So
I think that's it for college football coverage. You don't, like you said, you don't really have anything to add to State's thrilling.
Yeah, it's plenty to talk about. 52-12 drubbing.
So I think it's time for the upset special.
Yeah, the sweeping the nation, the hottest
yeah.
podcast segment in the country. PV's upset specials.
Unfortunately, PV's crystal ball didn't see. I did. I didn't see that Lamar Jackson was also going to be out of the Ravens game going into the upset special of the Ravens over the Steelers. Somehow the Ravens still almost won the game without Lamar Jackson with RG3 at quarterback, but the Steelers held on. So I am now 2-1 on the. Oh no, I'm in the wrong week. Whoops.
Yeah, you're the wrong week, I think.
All right, we're gonna re-edit this
I
out.
think we went over that last week.
Holy crap!
I was trying to remember. I'm like, we did the pod.
Yeah.
See, it's fucked up because we did the podcast on Friday, so everything's kind of thrown off a bit.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it. All right. Now I think it's time for the segment everyone's been waiting for: PV's upset special.
Sweeping the nation.
That's right. I moved to 2-1 this week. It was kind of like how Detroit came back and beat the Bears. The same thing was going on in the New Orleans Atlanta game, and it looked like I was about to go 3-0. Somehow the Saints just kind of like almost like the Bears in a way, like just fucked up kind of give Atlanta the ball back and Atlanta a chance to fucking drive the dagger home and score. And they drove the ball right down into their zone, and they were like punching it in from like the 18. And Matty Ice had his guy in the end zone, and he just kind of overthrew it. And if that ball is caught, game over, upset special in the bag. So unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I'm 2-1 now on my upset special. So enough crying from me. Moving right along to this week's upset special.
Yes.
We're gonna hang on till the end of the week, and we're going with PV's calling it the red hot Cleveland Browns, the Gunners, a team that can run, a team that can pass, a team that can rack up the yards. Is a lock, straight up plus 100 over. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh my god! What?
I forgot who they're playing.
That's awesome. That's classic. I thought you were just making your typical dramatic pause.
Oh my god, guys, folks, I'm losing it out there.
We'll edit this out, or maybe not. I have no idea. I don't follow the Browns, so I know they're what? Are they 9-3 now? 8-3? Whatever.
9-3.
9-3. Making the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Okay. I did have it right, and then I thought it was wrong in my head. It's so much Ravens talk. I've gotten confused.
Oh, it is the Ravens.
It is the Ravens, and I got
Browns versus the former Browns.
Yeah. All right.
Mm.
Do I want to start all the way over?
Check.
With the
1, 2, 3.
And now it's time for this week's everyone's favorite special. It's sweeping the nation for the third time tonight. It's PV's upset special. It was a tough loss for me last week. I moved from perfect 2-0 to 2-1. The Falcons had a chance to punch it in and win the game in the closing seconds. Kind of after a series
I'm not editing any of this. This is awesome.
A series of buffoonery from the Saints to give the Falcons a chance to win the game, but Matty Ice had a little too much zip on the ball for the game winner. But I'm going to come back strong this week because I'm going to go with the red hot, the red hot or the orange hot. They're the orange hot.
Ooh,
Cleveland
nice.
Browns.
Well done.
The Browns over the Ravens. The Browns are 1.5 point underdogs. They're plus 100 on the money line. Just bet the money line. Double down. Take your money. You don't need the points. The Browns are at home. They are going to take the Ravens to school. They can play defense. They can run the ball. The Ravens can run the ball, but the minute you shut Lamar Jackson down, their running game takes a major hit. So if they can keep Lamar Jackson under control, the Ravens have been top whatever they were talking about it last night in the Cowboys game. Oh, they're top this. Well, it's all since Lamar Jackson's gotten there. He's a running quarterback. That's how they rack up most of their yards. You keep Lamar Jackson in check, their passing game is abysmal, unless you're playing the Cowboys, of course. The Browns have a solid defense. This game it's not going to be tight.
I just can't believe that I'm actually interested in watching a Cleveland Browns game for the first time in decades. It feels like this is a Monday night game, isn't it?
Yeah, 12 Monday, 12/14, 7:15 p.m. start.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that.
And as you pointed out in outtake number 2, it's the Browns versus the old Browns.
The old Browns.
Yeah. So
the grudge match.
Yeah, so I am excited for this matchup. I think it's going to be some, like you said, you normally aren't getting jazzed up for an AFC matchup of the Ravens versus the Browns, at least not in the last few years, but I am jacked for this matchup. And like I said, take the money and run. I'm going to be 3-1 next week. I actually called Matt Ryan after last week's game, told him what a fucking disappointment he was to me, and just hung up the fucking phone. I said, dude, you're a disappointment.
And he felt shame.
He did feel shame. Shame. Anyway, so that's it. Well, that's all I got the third time through.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold. Yeah, that's all we've got for this week, I think. Little disjointed podcast on a disjointed college and pro football season. Fun though, fun and interesting times. So we will be back to you most likely next Tuesday night. The Limp Ditkas podcast on the Word Hole Media Network. You can catch Limp Ditkas at limpditkas.com. You can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at Limp Ditkas. God damn. What an episode.
Yeah, I know. This is the best episode ever.
We did pick a tongue twister of a podcast title, by the way. Limp Ditkas. I think we're going to be struggling with that for our entire history, but it's fun. Who gives a fuck? Part of that word hole, the aforementioned word hole network, is our baseball podcast, Major League A-Holes.
On tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a special episode tomorrow. Lots are happening with the White Sox. Not so much with the Cubs, but lots to talk about there still. So check out the Major League A-Holes podcast at majorleagueaholes.com and Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I think we're going to be debuting some new Pete's Food Frenzy episodes. I'm not sure when that's happening.
Yeah, that asshat will ever get around to editing the video.
Oh, you have recorded the video. You just need to edit
the video's done. Yeah, I just need to.
All right. Well, look for that on the Word Hole Media Network. So the burgeoning Word Hole Media Network. We're exploding.
It's huge. Gonna be huge.
So with that, I'm gonna call this Dagger Time.
It was Dagger Time about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, it should have been Dagger Time a long time ago. But kill it. Kill it.
All right.
Dagger Time. We out. Peace.